We all know Curtis Jackson, otherwise known as 50 Cent, as the street hustler from Queens turned rap icon. Some might know him as the social media menace who isn't afraid to call out anybody who gets on the wrong side of him. When he came onto the scene in 2003 with his hit single In the Club, nobody would have anticipated his rise to being a businessman and a media mogul. After having a glorious run in the rap game, the G-Unit Boys had been wanting to transition from music into other forms of entertainment, such as movies and television. He had always been interested in film and TV and wasn't satisfied with just being labeled as a rapper and wanted to become a business mogul.
I never wanted to be someone different. I wanted to be a better version of me, like to not have the restraints that I had. And when you come up without finances, it seems like the biggest restraint, and it makes you make that financial or money focus.
In 2005, he crossed over into acting with his leading role in Kid Richard Die Trying, which was followed by a bunch of other roles. And in the process, got a strong taste for the inner workings of the movie industry. Fifth has openly expressed how he would act like a sponge, soaking in all there was to be known about the business, with motivation and intentions to climb up the ladder.
They just like I was just acquiring information at that point.
You were curious,
and I was just going, yeah. So how you do that? Like I would go to the network and we pitch different things and just talk, and it was like that didn't work for me, right? Until like now.
Fifth attempted to pitch his own projects to television executives for years, but reportedly failed on many occasions. Showrunner and executive producer Courtney Kemp approached the aspiring mogul with the idea for Power in the early 2010s. Kemp pitched an idea about a man who wanted to leave the drug game behind and become a successful businessman. A concept that the former street pusher could personally relate to. Kent knew the business world, but she needed a rapper's input when it came to the streets and the drug game. 50 had always wanted to make TV that had good music in it. Like the 70s blockbuster Superfly, where the music itself tells the story. He met his match when he was pitched the idea for Power, where the music and the visuals would go hand in hand. It took Jackson 2 years to get Power picked up by a major network. Many mainstream networks hesitated on taking on a series that had heavy amounts of nudity, violence, and such a predominantly black cast.
I've had people in interviews ask me, does it feel like you're glorifying drug dealers? And I'm like, did they say that when they made Godfather?
right?
Did they say that when they made Scarface?
Chris Albrecht, who had previously built the HBO network, was familiar with hit shows such as The Wire and wasn't afraid to invest in a quote-unquote black show. So this was the perfect network for 50 to target. He also wanted to put Power on Starz, as he felt he would have the green light to portray the story in its most authentic light possible, whether that involves scenes of sex or graphic violence, much like he could within the hip-hop space that he came from. Power aired on June 7, 2014, and proved to be a massive hit, making those who doubted 50 finally take him seriously as a player in Hollywood.
You put Starz on the map, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, Starz was the channel I didn't even know where it was until you came on board.
It's so
I would flip through that going, why they spell it with a Z?
The executive producer had put Starz on the map, and in 2018, the network signed a $150 million multi-series deal with 50 for him to produce more shows and keep Power airing on their platform for 4 consecutive years. It was quickly evident that much of the success of Power was coming directly from 50 and social media alone. "50 himself would be the major driving force, acting as a marketing machine, posting sneak peeks and teasers on his social media accounts, fueling a buzz each time the show aired. Every Sunday night, platforms such as Twitter would go into a frenzy with minute-by-minute commentary on developments in the show with 50 chiming in. The The crime drama had an average viewership of 7.3 million an episode over the life of the series, and is the most watched series in the history of Starz. It's unlikely that Starz would have been able to generate these types of numbers by themselves. The success of Power gave the Media Mogul new leverage in Hollywood, but he has also become the leverage at Starz, as he has been the frontrunner in getting the network to the level it's at today. This has opened gates for him to create more shows such as BMF and have a heavy influence within the network. The multi-millionaire has gone so far to create his own Marvel-like universe with his plethora of crime and gangster-themed shows, and has now created his own media empire. Despite the success of Power and BMF, 50 Cent has had public friction with Starz over the years.
There's more ruthless people in the business world than in the street. You know, like they just have subtleties to their tactics. And a lot of them, the people that do this comfortably, like handing the contract, the thing that they're not conditioned for is direct conflict. Mm-hmm. And that the circumstances I grew under, I absolutely have to be prepared for it.
During a past season of Power, the Queens-born rapper got so frustrated with the network that he retaliated by leaking a full episode of the drama series. In November of 2021, Starz then leaked an episode of BMF early due to an apparent technical glitch. This frustrated 50 to the point where he said he wants to buy out the network so he can run it himself. 50 Cent, who hailed from the streets, has climbed so far up the corporate ladder and created so much value for Starz that he is now coming to buy the building. He has gone from stepping on the toes of rappers to now forcing his hand in Hollywood. By building his media empire and his credibility as a producer, he is now being approached by the same networks that once rejected him. He no longer wants to be relying on Starz to keep his empire running. With the rapper's lucrative deal with Starz set to come to an end in 2022, it will be interesting to see if the Media Mogul will part ways with the network, or if he stands by his word and buys it out for himself.